Hi dragon friends and book lovers, welcome to my channel. It's Krista. This is going to be my first book haul of January, but instead of showing you all the books that I got this month, I'm just going to show you only the books that were released in 2024, plus a couple of them that I don't have yet but are on their way. The first one is Alice Osman's Heartstopper. This is the 5th in the series. This is just an adorable, sweet, cozy series. There's a TV series adaptation on Netflix that you should check out as well. It's just as good. Super easy, takes about 30 minutes to read. A great book about friendship, about first loves, about bullying, about how to handle conversations. I read it already and I loved it. So my stamp of approval for whatever that's worth. The next one would be Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands. This is by Heather Follett. This is the second in the series. The first one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So in the first book, she's making an encyclopedia of fairies. In this book, she's making a map of the Otherlands, which I'm guessing would be the fairylands. It has a beautiful friendship that has developed into a little bit more romantic, or is going to be romantic eventually. We have Emily, who's a little bit more socially awkward, and you have her friend who was her rival, but he's a little bit better with people. And there's something a little different about him that she couldn't quite put her finger on in the first book, but she does eventually figure it out. Read that book, then read this one. It was one of my favorite books of last year. The first one, I haven't read this one yet, but I can't wait. We have Dark Star Burning, Ash Falls White. This is by Amelie Wen Zhao. This is a second in the series as well. The first one was Song of Silver Flame Like Night. I love this series as well. Anything that has to do with kick-ass women, I'm all for it. We start out with, I think her name is Lan. Her name's Lan. And she starts out working in a tea house. She doesn't really know much of her ancestral lineage. She performs for the soldiers, are also able to bid on her and take her for the night. There's a sorcerer, a bad sorcerer that comes, and he can sense her magic that she doesn't even know exists inside of her. And another soldier who happens to be there and discovers this, didn't know she existed, this power existed within her, and saves her from this sorcerer. He brings her back to a war college or a war school, and there's even more secrets and more fun things to explore there. And it's just a fun ride. I really loved it. There's a lot of magic, a lot of complex characters, and it's just a great series. The next series, I guess, the second book I have of another series is Rebecca Ross's Ruthless Vows. This is actually a duology though. This book, I've already went into a lot of detail. I put a video a few weeks back. You can go check it out on all my thoughts on this book and the previous Divine Rivals book. If you are interested in finding that out, go check that out. I'm not going to go into more detail again about it. I loved it. It was a 5-star. This and Heartstopper are the only two books that I've read in this whole stack. Both of them are great. Now I wanted to go over a couple books that I don't have with me, but I'm definitely getting in the mail. I'm going to buy them. The first one is The Storm We Made by Vanessa Chan. This is historical and it sounds so good. It's about a Malayan mother who becomes an unlikely spy for the invading Japanese force during World War II. She's lured into this spiral by the promises and the dreams of making an Asia for Asian people. So instead, she just helped usher in an even more brutal occupation by Japanese. So then we fast forward 10 years, and it's the consequences that she has to live with because of this decision, because of this occupation. Her son has disappeared. Her daughter is now hiding in the basement. She's hiding away from comfort stations because she will be nabbed and forced into those roles. I love historical books like this. This one sounds so good, and this point of view sounds really interesting, so I can't wait. The next one is How We Name the Stars by Andreas Ordorica. Andreas Ordorica. This is set between the United States and Mexico, and it says it's a tender and lyrical exploration of belonging, grief, and first love. It sounds like an LGBT exploration of identity. We have a boy who goes to school. When he meets his roommate, they form a very close brotherly bond. But that brotherly bond develops into something more. However, just when that relationship takes flight, he is pulled away by a brutal turn of events that changes his life forever. He finds himself spending the summer in his ancestral homeland, Mexico. And now he's discovering how him as who he is, how he fits within this place that he comes from. I love any kind of LGBTQ exploration of identity. I've got a stack here of books that I loved so much that all kind of have to do with a similar type of plot. And every single one of these is probably one of my favorite books I've ever read. So I'm hoping that this will join this stack. Next comes to Interesting Facts About Space, and that one's by Emily Austin. I don't have this book yet. It is pre-ordered. It's the same author as Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. I love this book. We have a quirky girl, quirky humor. It's a slow, mundane read. We live in her mind completely, and it is following her mundane life every day. And I'm hoping that she does the same thing with this book. And it sounds like the girl we follow, she's obsessed with space. She can tell you anything about black holes and all these terrifying facts about them, but she has a phobia of bald men. So it just sounds like she's going to be another quirky little character. We follow her through the dating world, through her forging a new relationship with her estranged half-sisters because of her father's death. And she starts believing that someone's following her. So now it's her coming to terms with the fact that she might not be like everyone else. It's a slow descent into paranoid madness. And I'm just excited for this. The next book is The Bullet Swallower by Elizabeth Gonzalez James. And this is a Western. And it's set in 1895. I have been wanting to read a really good Western for a long time, and the only one I can think of to read is Desperado. I think that's the name of it. And it's like 600 plus pages, and I just cannot get myself to do it. I'm hoping this is going to be what I've been looking for this whole time. So I'm excited for this book. I don't know anything else about it other than that. Next, we have Voyage of the Damned by Frances White. This is fantasy, and we're on a voyage with 12 different heirs to different colonies. And every single one of them has some magical abilities that they call blessings, except for one guy. One guy has no powers. One of the heirs is murdered, and everyone's a suspect. And as more and more bodies start showing up murdered, now the guy who doesn't have magical abilities is stepping up and try to discover who the killer is and to become the hero. So I love the underdog type of stories. And can we take a moment to admire my end pages here? I got this from Waterstones, and I got a signed copy. Signed. It is beautiful. Now we come to a book that I might be having a little bit of buyer's remorse. I'm not the biggest mystery thriller girl, but I've read from this author before. His name is Alex Michaelides. This is called The Fury. And I've read both of his prior books, and I've loved one and hated the other. I didn't like The Silent Patients. I didn't like how they dealt with the ending, but I loved The Maidens, but that's dark academia. So now this is back to thrillers again. Am I gonna like it? I don't know. I do like his writing. I think it's very compulsive. Having a lot of mixed reviews on it, but I think it'll be okay. Since I'm not a thriller girly, maybe that's a bonus. Maybe I will like it because I'm not a thriller girly. Then we have Poor Dear. This one's by Claire Oshetsky. This is a magical realism literature book. It's little. It's a lot smaller than I thought. Look how tiny it is compared to the other books. It's so little. I thought it was going to be a bigger book. We have a little girl who has a best friend who dies. No one blames this girl. Her mom claims that she was home all day long and didn't leave the house. It's this little girl. She has this vivid imagination and she has these dreams to make her feel better, to try to get lost in a different world. In enters Poor Dear. It's some sort of creature. He forces himself inside of her imagination and will not relent until she comes face to face with the reality of what happened to her best friend and the role she had in her death. So it just sounds, I love magical realism when it's mixed with literary fiction. I just think it's just a beautiful combination. The last book I have in my stack is The Silence in Her Eyes. This is a psychological thriller, and I really enjoy psychological thrillers, especially when it introduces some medical affliction. We follow a girl who has motion blindness. I don't know much else about this book. I just saw that it was a psychological thriller and it had to do with motion blindness, and it made me excited. And that is it. That is my stack. I say that is it. That is a lot of books that I bought just in 2024 in January. And I was making the list for February, and that stack looks just as big, if not bigger, than this month. So I'll do a video with those books that I'm most anticipated. But until next time, bye.